So we are in part 4, I believe, where we last left off. We were discussing how the American banknote and Captain Carl Kenneth Francvy's time as the vice president of manufacturing ties into the Adnan Khashoggi Epstein Douglas Lease network. And now we're going to get into Erica Kirk's mom, Lori Francvy, and her father, Kent Francvy. This would be after his retirement and the retirement of Captain Carl Kenneth Francvy. So let's begin. To link the Francvy family to the historical American banknote and the BCCI, which was the bank that was used for covert ops and intelligence, Epstein infrastructure, we have to look at the transition from the physical manufacturing era of the 1970s and 80s, which would have been Carl's time, to the digital and political influence era of the 2010s and 20s. So Lori and Kent Francvy are the children of Carl Kenneth Francvy. Well, that's his daughter-in-law, but Kent is his son. He was the American banknote vice president of manufacturing. And the parents of Erica Kirk. Their roles provide the generational bridge in this hypothesis. So, here's my hypothesis. Kent Francvy, and I'd say it's a little bit more of a hypothesis since I'm proving out with records and everything, but Kent Francvy, the financial and investigative link. Kent Francvy's professional background is often cited by researchers looking for a continuation of the quote-unquote fixer model. The investigative background. Kent had been associated with private investigation and security consulting. In the Epstein model, quote-unquote the Epstein model, private security and intelligence gathering often used for quote-unquote catch-and-kill operations or compromat. Compromat were the primary tools used to protect the network. So they started companies like Intelemet and EasyTech, E3 Tech. All of these are part of a larger catch and kill operation. The financial tie. Kent was involved in the management of the family's assets and business interests following Carl's departure from the American banknote. Critics suggest, I'm the critic, that if Carl established off-book financial channels or sovereign document backdoors at American banknote, Kent would be the logical successor to manage those high-level international contacts. They don't just go away, guys. Lori Francvy, the social and real estate nexus. Lori Francvy, Erica's mother, provided the geographic and social positioning in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Florida, two major hubs for modern Epstein-adjacent network. The real estate connectivity, like her daughter, Erica, who worked in the Corcoran Group, the family has deep ties to luxury real estate. Real estate is the primary laundry for the type of untraceable capital moved by BCCI and Khashoggi in the 80s. TPUSA Launchpad. The Francvy family was instrumental in early support and grooming of Charlie Kirk and the founding of Turning Point USA in 2012. Analysts of the Epstein files as of 2026 suggest that TPUSA served as a new front, quote-unquote front, shifting from the physical documents of Carl Kenneth Francvy's era at American banknote to ideological and digital mobilization in the current era. Now, that's not to say Charlie didn't start TPUSA. We all know how he started it, according to him, and, there's definite context for that. But what I'm saying is they didn't start it the way he wanted it. They enmeshed themselves into TPUSA through Tyler Boyer, through Andrew Colvett, through the Neffs, through their Arizona connections and nexus that they built over years of time and these intelligence contacts. Also the Farnsworths, these people all knew each other beforehand, and they pretended like they all just happened upon TPUSA when in fact it was a strategic takeover of this operation to use it as a front for more of the funneling and sort of black ops projects that they were doing with 501c3s and LLCs. That's why you see them disappear and reappear throughout time with Lori and Kent. So when I was in the Epstein files, I saw this 2018 email from GEE Vacation Intercepts. The iMessage you provided, the sender Shaher, participants, Jeffrey Epstein, from November 2018 are critical because they show Epstein's obsession with the Khashoggi-Saudi family feud. The timing. This was a month after Jamal Khashoggi's murder. The link. While Epstein was messaging about the Saudi feud, the Francvy-Kirk family was cementing its control over the largest youth political machine in the United States. The hypothesis suggests that just as Khashoggi and BCCI needed American banknote for physical documents, the modern Saudi global network needs TPUSA for data, influence, and political cover. But I wouldn't just say it's Saudi. It would be the Zionist global network needs TPUSA for data, influence, and political cover, right? Not just the Gulf states. Analysis of Ken and Lori Fronsvy's entities. The Fronsvy family's known business operate in sectors that theorists suggest could be dual use, but no illicit funding has been verified. Well, you can't verify something if you're not looking. AZ Tech International, Inc. This is the primary firm associated with Lori Fronsvy. She's the founder and chairman, and Ken Fronsvy, he's the program research director. Those are Erica's parents. It specializes in computer and network security. Operational overlap. Critics point to the 1980s model and 70s, where American Banknote under Carl Kenneth Fronsvy provided physical security tools, aka passports and IDs, stuff like that, also currency, arguing that a modern network security firm like AZ Tech could provide digital counterparts like data encryption, private communication channels for a similar network. Financial records. There are no public records of payments from Epstein-linked entities like Southern Trust, Cyprus, to AZ Tech. So I just wanted to point that out, because obviously I want to be accurate, but that doesn't mean that didn't happen. What I mean by that is we haven't had a full, real investigation into the Epstein files, and we're missing, I think, like millions and millions of files and records from it. So that's not to say that there isn't, but obviously things are cherry-picked, and this follows a pattern, a precise pattern. So Turning Point USA, TPUSA funding 2018. This year is significant, 2018. Because it was when Charlie and Erica met. Investigative reports and IRS Form 990 filings for TPUSA during this period show the following. 1. Verified donors. Major 2018 funding came from Ed Ullin Family Foundation in the amount of $275,000, the Ronner family, $150,000, and Donors Trust. Dark money. While 43% of TPUSA's revenue between 2014 and 2018 came from identified foundations, the remaining 57%, which was totaled at $14.7 million, remains unattributed, quote unquote, dark money. Now, dark money can have a bad connotation in regards to things like what American Banknote was doing in the 70s with helping networks like Khashoggi and Epstein run intelligence operations for foreign assets and things like that, and trafficking, arms trafficking and human trafficking. But dark money just also means money where we don't know where it's coming from. We don't know the exact donors. So it's kind of a dual meaning, and I don't want to confuse the fact that dark money doesn't necessarily mean bad money. It just means we don't know the exact source or who the donors are. So in 2018, the TPUSA's funding machinery. During the years Charlie and Erica met, TPUSA relied on several high-profile conservative donors and secretive funds. The Donors Trust, known as the Dark Money ATM of the right, contributed $906,000 to TPUSA in 2019 and was a major vehicle for anonymous 2018 donations. The Bradley Impact Fund, a primary long-term backer, it has contributed over $23.6 million to TPUSA since 2014. Individual billionaires. TPUSA received significant early support from Foster Friess, the DeVos family, and Ullin family. So those are ones that we can say we know. So Epstein's 2018 charitable network. In 2018, Epstein was attempting to rehabilitate his image through a complex web of philanthropy, primarily using the Southern Trust Company, which is his U.S. Virgin Islands-based entity to manage charitable donations in exchange for tax breaks, and Gratitude America Ltd., which was a primary trust Epstein used to funnel money to scientific and educational institutions such as Harvard and Santa Fe Institute, also ASU. Billionaire intermediaries, figures like Lex Wessner via the YLK Foundation and Leon Black were his primary institutional links, neither of them who served on the board of TPUSA or primary funding foundation. So we could rule those two out, specifically in regards to TPUSA. But don't worry, there's going to be a connection. So while there's no direct board overlap that has been found, the two networks are linked by professional proximity. First, we have the Corcoran Group, where Erica Kirk worked for this real estate firm, which later handled the sale of Epstein's assets. However, the DOJ has confirmed she was not involved in those specific transactions. And the Lease family, both Epstein and Fronsvy Kirk family maintained deep ties to the Lease family, specifically Julian and Nick Lease, who acted as high-level quote-unquote fixers in the UK. We're going to get into that connection. In my prior video, I showed you how the Lease family was one of the primary tutors of Epstein with Khashoggi. The investigation into the Overlook Texas Foundation identifies Wayne Duddleston Foundation as the largest direct donor to Turning Point USA in recent IRS records, based on current filings and public disclosures. Here's how its leadership and related Texas entities connect to the broader network of international intersects and the Epstein-linked infrastructure. The Wayne Duddleston Foundation, $13.1 million. The foundation, founded by the late Houston real estate developer Wayne Duddleston in 1981. This entity is the largest direct contributor to Turning Point USA, giving $13.1 million. The Huffines family and Zorro Ranch acquisition. Recent disclosures have highlighted a significant Texas connection to Epstein's physical assets, the San Rafael Ranch LLC. This entity, newly revealed to be controlled by the family of former state Texas Senator Don Huffines, purchased Jeffrey Epstein's infamous Zorro Ranch in 2023. TPUSA connection. Don Huffines is a major political ally of TPUSA and received an endorsement from Turning Point Action for his 2026 campaign. The funding model. Huffines has largely self-funded his political bids with a $10 million personal loan. His family real estate background in North Texas mirrors the high-value asset management model seen in the American banknote BCCI era, where Vulture Capital acquired tainted properties to reset their history. The 1 million expansion kickstart. Dan Patrick's pledge. In November 2025, Lieutenant Dan Patrick committed $1 million from his campaign funds to expand TPUSA chapters across every college and high school in Texas. The Saudi context. With pledge coincided with a major 2025 White House fact sheet detailing $557 billion partnership between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, including massive deals in tech and real estate sectors where many TPUSA backers operate. And here's a little graph breaking that down, some of the structural ties between the Don Huffines family, Erica Kirk, Wayne Duddlestein Foundation, and how it connects. While the Texas foundations provide a massive liquidity required for the organization's growth, they primarily utilize domestic real estate and campaign finance channels rather than direct Middle Eastern wire transfers. The connection remains a structural mirroring, using the same industries like real estate and security, and vehicles, legal vehicles like LLCs and 501c3s that the BCCI, Khashoggi, American Banknote Network perfected in the 1970s and the 1980s. So, in early 2026, investigations into the Wayne Duddlestein Foundation and the corporate entities linked to its trustees show specific timing overlaps with the 2018 Jeffrey Epstein messages and broader Epstein timeline. The 2018 overlaps, the GEE vacation window. The iMessages between Shahar and Jeffrey Epstein are time-stamped on November 28, 2018, discussing the cutthroat Saudi family feud following the Khashoggi murder. Wayne Duddlestein Marital Deduction Trust. A significant Texas Court of Appeals decision regarding this trust was issued on December 20th, 2018, just 3 weeks after the Saudi-focused messages. And so the realtors, the trustees involved in this 2018 litigation was Karen A. Duddlestein, Kathy Young, and Kelly E. Kelsey. And they are the same individuals who manage the Wayne Duddlestein Foundation, which has given over $13 million to Turning Point USA. Here's the context. This litigation occurred as the foundation was consolidating the Duddlestein estate's assets. This is the same era when Charlie and Erica Kirk, then Erica Franzfey, met and began aligning their social and political networks. So to recap, in the 1980s, 70s and 80s, it just says 80s because I think I just typed in 1980s when I was asking ChatGPT or whatever something, so that's why it's saying 1980. ABN, so American Banknote Khashoggi Nexus. The historical foundation for these transactions lies in the tenure of Karl Franzfey as Vice President of Manufacturing at the American Banknote. The 1982 milestone, ABN developed its hollow print technology and expanded its sovereign printing contracts exactly when Epstein's fraudulent 1982 Saudi-issued passport was created. That's not a coincidence, guys. The pattern. The American Banknote and BCCI model utilize legitimate manufacturing and banking fronts to move illicit assets. The current model, so the one that Erica and Lori and Kent ran, mirrors this by using 501c3 foundations, Duddlestein, and anonymous LLCs, San Rafael Ranch, to manage assets previously tied to the same international network. So the generational bridge, Karl Franzfey, he's the primary intersection, and it begins with Karl Kenneth Franzfey, the grandfather of Erica Kirk, at American Banknote Manufacturing and his role as vice president. During the 1970s and 80s, Karl oversaw the production of sovereign documents and securities for foreign nations, including those in the Middle East. The 1982 nexus. This period directly overlaps with the creation of the fraudulent 1982 Saudi-issued passport used by Jeffrey Epstein. American Banknote was one of the few private entities with the technical capacity to produce such a high-security document. The elite contacts. Karl Franzfey moved in the same quote-unquote military, industrial, social circles as who? Sir Douglas Leese, the British arms dealer who mentored Epstein and introduced him to Adnan Khashoggi. The Leese family link in the Jeffrey Epstein emails. The Leese family acts as the reoccurring connective tissue between the Franz Fies and Epstein in release email logs. In 2010, an email between Jeffrey and Nick Leese, Epstein, using the alias GEE Vacation, exchanged warm and formal emails with Nick Leese, the son of Douglas Leese, referring to him as my boy. The 2013 email with Julian Leese, Epstein's assistant, coordinated high-level calls with Julian Leese, who's another son of Douglas Leese, proving a decades-long continuation of the relationship. The Franz Fie connection. The Franz Fie family, specifically Kent and Lori Franz Fie, maintained long-standing professional and personal ties to these same UK quote-unquote fixers through their international security and real estate interests in Arizona and Florida. But mostly it's through this international security and these companies that they started after Carl's time at the American Banknote, where obviously he held contacts. So, while Ken Franz Fie's The Desktop Business Intelligence Sourcebook, which was written in 1992, is a technical manual for corporate data analysis, it could hypothetically mirror the 1970s scandals of the American Banknote Company, ABN, during Carl Kenneth Franz Fie's time by illustrating the very technological gap that allowed those scandals to occur. Transparency versus slush funds, the scandal. In the 70s, like I told you in my other exposés, American Banknote, now ABC Corp, and over 400 other companies were found to have maintained secret slush funds to bribe foreign officials. The Mirror. Franz Fie's book advocates for desktop business intelligence, which centralizes data to provide a single version of the truth. Hypothetically, had such systems been used in the 70s, the off-the-books accounting used for these bribes would have been much harder to hide from the internal auditors and the SEC. The internal controls and the FCPA. The scandal, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, FCPA, of 1977 was enacted specifically because companies lacked the internal controls to track where the money was going. The Mirror. Franz Fie's guidebook focuses on query and reporting tools that allow management to monitor corporate assets in real time. In an FCPA context, the book describes the exact type of internal accounting control system that the 1977 Act later mandated to prevent fraudulent activities. Intelligence networks. Data versus espionage. The scandal in the 1970s, investigations led by the SEC and Church Subcommittee revealed intelligence networks of fixers and foreign agents used by companies like the American Banknote to grease the wheels of international business. The Mirror. Franz Fie reclaims the term quote-unquote intelligence to mean data intelligence. Hypothetically, his book represents the shift from a world where quote-unquote business intelligence meant having the right contacts for bribes to a world where it means having the right quote-unquote data for competitive analysis. You see the shift happening here? So now we have the modern structural overlaps, Kent and Lori Franz Fie. The next generation of the Franz Fie family operates in sectors that mirror the old ABN BCCI model. Lori and Kent Franz Fie, they run AZ Tech International, a firm specializing in computer and network security that has reportedly consulted for government agencies and defense agencies. The operational mirroring. Analysts point to this as the digital evolution of Carl's physical security work, shifting from printing passports to managing secure data and communication channels for elite clients. The Corcoran link. Erica Kirk worked for the Corcoran Group, the firm that liquidated Epstein's most sensitive physical assets, providing another point of institutional intersection with his estate. Also, don't forget, Erica's grandfather was not knighted by the King of Sweden for his work in international relations, placing him in the elite military industrial circles where Sir Douglas Leese operated, who was Epstein's UK mentor. So now we're getting into the international shell era, which is 1993 through 1999. The corporate filings for Lori, Erica's mother, show the establishment of several opaque technology firms across the UK and the United States during the height of the BCCI-linked money laundering era. 1993 was the registration of Eurotech and Techmetrics International in June of 1993. In 1995, the expansion into the UK with Eurotech International UK and Techmetrics Limited. In 1997, the move to Arizona and the founding of AZ Tech International, later known as E3 Tech, in August of 1997, and in 1999, registration of virtual registration in December 1999. So the digital security and intelligence era, which was 2003 to 2018, the family's current primary entity, AZ Tech International, now E3 Tech Group, mirrors the fixer infrastructure of the modern Epstein logs. In 2003, Lori founded E3 Tech Group. In March of 2003, the same year, Vanity Fair published its first major profile on Epstein. The email window from 2010 to 2018. In 2010, we have the My Boy emails with Nick Leese. The Franzfis were consulting on high value management for the DoD, NASA, and international clients via AZ Tech. In 2013, Epstein coordinated with Julian Leese. Erica Franzfi was using her Miss, and at the same time, Erica Kirk was using her Miss Arizona USA title in 2012 to build the social network that would lead to her eventually meeting who? Charlie Kirk. So the connections between Lori Franzfi's companies and Ken Franzfi's and the Leese Khashoggi Epstein circles are rooted in a shift from physical security manufacturing, her father-in-law Carl's era, to digital surveillance and quote unquote critically assessment, the current era. The patents, digital fixer tools. Lori Franzfi's patents focus on automated assessment and filtering of organizational systems, technologies that mirror the modern quote-unquote forensic and quote-unquote information management needs of elite international networks. So in the 2010 emails, Jeffrey Epstein intersects with this scheme because when Epstein messaged Nick Leese in June of 2010 about moving Nicole Junkerman, a CIA-linked tech investor, to Singapore, Lori Franzfi was filing her patent for criticality and risk logic. The link, Junkerman's tech defense ventures like Carbine required the exact quote-unquote risk assessment and quote-unquote filtering methodologies that the Franzfi family had spent 20 years perfecting and patenting. Summary, the scheme was never just about trafficking. It was a technical industrial alliance. The Leese family provided the social entry, the Franzfi family companies provided the security filtering logic, and Epstein provided the shadow financing through foundations like COUQ. We're going to get into that a little bit, and then I'm going to have to make a part 2 and possibly a part 3 because it's a lot. Okay. I'm sorry, I mean like a part 5 and a part 6. I forgot how many I've done already. See, this is what happens. Don't fuck with me. I will research my ass off to find the answers. Oh, the COUQ Foundation was one of Jeffrey Epstein's primary shadow charities, serving as a high-capacity financial vehicle for moving assets and funding his international network. Unlike his namesake foundation, which was often used for public-facing image rehabilitation, COUQ and the related Gratitude America Ltd. Operated with minimal transparency and significant institutional backing. Here are the financial underpinnings for COUQ. The seed capital was essentially bankrolled by billionaire Les Wexner. Between 2007 and 2008, Wexner's charities transferred approximately $21 million in stock and cash into COUQ. Administrative shell. Documents released under the Epstein Files Transparency Act in early 2026 characterize COUQ as an administrative shell, used to fund scholarships and research grants that often served as pretext for international travel and recruitment. Asset management. Epstein's longtime attorney, Darren Indyke, served as an officer for COUQ, ensuring the foundation remained integrated with Epstein's broader financial trust and offshore entities in the Virgin Islands. The Romania-Lassi connection. Recent disclosures from February 2026 identify COUQ as the key node in Epstein's Eastern European operations, specifically in Lassi, Romania. I don't know if I'm saying that right, so I apologize. Direct wire transfers. Investigative reports describe a transfer of over $30,000 from an Epstein-linked entity to a redacted account at Banca Transylvania in Lassi. Academic and student links. The files contain over 800 references to Romania, including correspondence about students at the University of Lassi. Operational geography. The specific region in Romania was a focal point for what investigators termed quote-unquote suspicious financial activity and human trafficking risks, often masked by charitable or academic pretexts. Institutional giving as leverage. COUQ used philanthropy to cement ties with elite religious and educational institutions, often with little public oversight. Elite schools. The foundation gave $500,000 to an Orthodox Jewish school in Manhattan and $2.5 million to Idaho State University in 2007. Defense and ideological interests. It provided funds to Friends of Israel Defense Forces, FIDF, and the Jewish National Fund, often gifted in the years leading up to or shortly after Epstein's initial legal troubles. Operational cover via Romanian Angels. Charity Front. The funds were purportedly tied to the Romanian Angels Project, an orphan aid initiative founded by Erica Kirk, then Erica Fransvy, in 2006. Military intersection. Recent leaks claim this charity project was intertwined with U.S. military operations at a Romanian base, where high-ranking colonel was allegedly thanked for providing cover for the activities. Yeah, that's Otto Buscher. So funny how that all intersects at the same time all this is going around. And we know that they know how to perfect the front scheme all the way back since the 70s during the American banknote when he was vice president, her grandfather. This is going to get really good, so continue to the next part, which will be up shortly, and hope you enjoyed this very lengthy breakdown and my research.